everybody, and welcome back to the Leeds Lens. We've got quite a bit to get into today. We're going to be talking again about Daniel Farke's future because the 49ers given a massive update to Mike Keegan, which was obviously leaked to Mike Keegan. And if you know anything about Mike Keegan and the relationship he's got with the 49ers, it's always been clear that when there's some news to be said, when there's a spokesman needed, it's Mike Keegan that the 49ers use and go to. And he's given an update on Daniel Farke's future and what the 49ers are expecting in the next few weeks in order for Daniel Farke to essentially save his job. We're also, as well, I mentioned this on yesterday's show about Ethan Ampadu and sort of his failure at this moment in time, and he's not doing well enough in my personal opinion. So we'll talk a bit about Ethan Ampadu. And as Arthur has already said in the comments, we're going to talk slightly, very not, let's be honest, we're not going to talk much about it. But Bamford has also, looks like he's signing for Sheffield United. So we'll talk a bit about that as well. But let's start with the main story this evening. Is it Wednesday evening? I'm losing track of time. Wednesday evening. And that is, of course, around the update that Mike Keegan gave. And yeah, as we talked about in the introduction, Mike Keegan has had unbelievable links to the 49ers at the football club. We obviously know that he was the one that leaked the story in the summer, of course, around about Daniel Farke potentially losing his job then. And he listed in a load of names. I think Corberan was in there. There was a number of names. I'm sure you all remember the report. We've referenced it so many times on this channel. But he's been talking again about Daniel Farke's future. And he says that the 49ers have given Daniel Farke a deadline, basically, to prove his worth at the football club. And what he's requiring, and what Mike Keegan is saying is required, is that they want to get 1 point per game in the next few games. So in the next few games, we've got 4 games obviously coming up of Aston Villa, Man City away, Chelsea at home, and of course Liverpool at home. And basically, Daniel Farke needs to get there. Needs to get a point per game in them games in order to keep his job. And they also referenced, actually, which I think is really interesting, he also said that Nottingham Forest was part of that list as well. So now he hasn't got that point against Nottingham Forest, which he needs to get 1 point a game. He's going to need to up that in the next few. So essentially, he's going to need to get 5 points, potentially, or at least 4 points, depending on how you read the report and how you interpret what Mike Keegan's saying. But he needs to get 4 points in his next 4 games in order to still be Leeds United manager. And that means that in his next 4 games, he's really going to have to get a win. And I think when you look at this, and I think what's interesting about this is, and I've wondered this today when I've been thinking about it, I think if he loses at Villa, he's gone. I think if he loses at Villa, he's gone. Because I think if you lose at Villa, you're not going to get to that 1 point per game. And I think what happens if you lose to Villa, then we're probably going to lose at Man City anyway. And I think they probably put and if I looking at it, my opinion right at this moment is, I think if he loses to Villa, he'll be sacked. And then I think we'll bring a caretaker in for the Man City away game. And then I think we'll have a new manager bounce for Chelsea and Liverpool at home. That's the way I see it. That's the way I interpret it, in my opinion. If he does beat Villa, I think there's a different conversation. However, my personal opinion is we probably won't beat Villa. I just don't think we're playing well enough. They're flying at this moment in time. But the fact of the matter is that I'd checked before I did this live stream, actually, and Leeds United have picked up more points at home than Villa have away this season. So going into the game, Leeds United have picked up, I think, 8 points in the first 5 home games. I think Villa are about 5 points away from home this season. They've been absolutely unbelievable at home, but not as good as away, which is the usual situation of the Premier League and Villa over the last few years. So my personal opinion about it, really, to be honest with you, is that this is probably a 50-50 game. And if Daniel Farke does get through it, I do think that potentially he will keep his job. Anyway, let's get into some of you guys' comments. Evening, sorry I couldn't watch yesterday. No worries, Ollie. That's why we do it daily, mate, so it's absolutely fine. Jack says, evening, Scott. Evening to you too. Danny says, smash a like and subscribe, please. Yeah, if you could do that. I usually always mention it at the end of the shows, but I probably should mention it at the start of the shows because that's obviously when most people are watching. So if you could drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, as Danny says, that would be massively appreciated because the more you like and subscribe, it basically pushes it in the algorithm and lets other people who might also like Leeds content and might also consume Leeds content to basically see this content. It appears on their homepage as well. So if you could do that, that would be absolutely fantastic. So in other words, he's gone after we lose to Liverpool and finish the run with 0 points. Brilliant. No, I don't think that's how it's not quite how I interpret it, Ollie. I think, as I said, he's got to get 4 points. So technically, if he doesn't win the first 3, then he definitely can't get 4 points, does he? Because if he loses all the first 3, then we can't get 4 points in the game only against Liverpool. I don't hate this, I've got to be honest. I know people Really, really want Daniel Farke to leave this football club at some point in time. I can't remember being this strong for a manager here since probably Jesse Marsh, maybe Grazia, because that obviously got really toxic at the end of it. Like it does obviously with any manager. I think, except Bielsa, I think he was a different sort of proposition in that sense, just because of the sort of loyalty the fans felt like they had for Bielsa, of course, which I don't think they obviously felt with any other manager we've had for a long time. But I don't hate this because I still worry, and I know people have talked differently about this, but I really still do worry that, personally, if we sack a manager now, I just don't like it. In my opinion, I just don't like going into these next games with a new manager and ruining the new manager bounce potentially. I just don't like that. I think it's a bad idea. So I actually don't mind. For me, I don't mind the idea of maybe giving him Villa, giving him Man City, and then worst case scenario, put a new manager in for Chelsea and Liverpool at home, because I know Chelsea and Liverpool at home, everyone's going to go, we're going to lose, we're going to lose, we're going to lose. But actually, I think Chelsea and Liverpool are two teams that Leeds United fans were massively up for playing against them. So I think the support and the ground and the atmosphere at the football club when we play Chelsea and Liverpool at home is going to be unbelievable. And just think, if we've got a new manager on top of that as well, the lift we're going to get in them games. So if I see it, if you lose to Villa, then we sack him for Man City, and then we're bringing a new manager for them too. I think you could end up seeing Leeds United get results in them too with a different manager, just because of the hype that might come with it. And also, they're massive clubs at this moment in time, obviously Chelsea and Liverpool, as we know. Leeds are a massive club in their own right, but they are two giants. Liverpool obviously champions. However, they are quite... what's the best way to describe them? Probably flake at this moment in time. I think you can get at Chelsea. I think you can get at Liverpool. So it's not like Arsenal, where I look at it and go, they're just going to sort of bore it out, and I think you're going to really struggle to get points against them. I look at Chelsea and Liverpool and think they are really, really vulnerable, especially Liverpool. They've lost the last 4 away games in the Premier League. They're really, really vulnerable. So new manager in, when the crowd's flying up, and we put them under pressure early, potentially, hopefully get an early goal, we can definitely get points in them games. So I think if I'm thinking that, I think the 49ers will also be thinking that as well, if I'm being honest. I think they'll look at it. And the other thing I want to rebuff against as well is that I've seen mentioned all the time is, oh, but Scott, if we wait too long, we're going to be in the relegation zone and a new manager's not going to take the job. Do we not think that new managers look at the running up? Do we not think that managers, like, when a manager takes a job, he looks at everything? When we listened to Bielsa, he watched every single game of the previous season. Are we really saying that a new manager won't go, ooh, them games are challenging coming up. If I lose them, I might be in the relegation zone. So yes, obviously, if we lose the next 4, we're going to be in the relegation zone. Of course we are. But the new manager will also look at it and go, well, if I lose them games and I come in now and lose them 4 games, I'm going to be in the relegation zone, and the managers then will also, and the fans then maybe won't be as sure as me, maybe the players won't be as sure of me. So let's not sort of deafen the intelligence of managers. They'll obviously know that we've got this fixture run coming up, and that would be the case regardless if he's in post or not, in my opinion. So, as I said, I don't really... I put it this way, there's every chance we're going to be in the relegation zone in 4 games' time, no matter who's in charge, just because of the games we've got. And I think that a manager's always going to look at that, regardless if he's getting brought in afterwards or before. So I don't like that as a reason, really. And look, as we talked about yesterday, there is tons and tons of reasons to sack Daniel Farke. Get it completely. If your reason is that we're going to be in the relegation zone and it's going to look less appetising for a new manager, well, I think he's going to look at the games and think that's less appetising anyway. So, I think that's how it is. Oleon Saw says, I think we'll lose against Villa heavily and City another 7-0. Then I reckon it'll be that. Yeah, that's where I'm at, Ollie. I think that's something that could happen. I actually, to be honest with you, I know people are going to be are in a really negative moment at this moment in time. We've got to remember, people, we still haven't played badly at home this season at all. I don't think, name a home game we've actually performed poorly in. I'd actually argue, I'm being totally honest, the game we played worst in at home of all of them was potentially the West Ham win. I thought in the West Ham win, if I'm being totally honest, I felt for the first half an hour we did all right. They gave us 2 goals. On the first goal, Brendan Aronson has a free sort of shot in the edge of in the box. They leave a man on the back. Okafor bullies the lad on the back post, doesn't get anywhere near him. We have a free chance from Bogle to put the ball in the box. And the second goal is just a cross into the box from a corner. And Rodon, our best header of the ball at this moment in time, is left unmarked on the 6-yard box. So they gave us 2 goals, West Ham, and then I thought they were probably maybe edged it for the rest of the game. So I didn't think we were brilliant against West Ham, but I think in every other home game we've actually been pretty good. So I'm really, regardless of who's in charge, I know people think that with Daniel Farke in charge, we're definitely going to lose at home to Villa. I'm actually probably not of that opinion because I haven't seen anything. Daniel Farke away is a loss waiting to happen. I get that, but Daniel Farke at home isn't that. Like the stats, not what the stats say, which obviously everyone's trying to bring up with the Farke conversation. Anyway, let's get into your guys' comments. I don't see us getting a manager bounce with this squad. Yeah, potentially not. It depends how good the squad actually is, Danny. Because I've said this all the time, and I will continue to say this. I genuinely believe, I genuinely do believe this, that I hope you're all right. Anyone who wants the manager sacked, I've said this so many times, I hope you're right. Because if it's just the manager, then Leeds United are going to end the season in the Premier League next year, which is exactly what I want. If someone said to me right now, we are definitely staying up with the new manager, I'd sack him in a heartbeat. I'd sack him in a heartbeat. I just don't think it's that obvious of a move. I don't think it's that clear that if you just sack him, then it's all going to turn out fancy and rosy, and we're going to be bringing out the red carpet. I really don't think that's the case. Because I think fundamentally the squad's not good enough. And if the squad ain't good enough, you can't just sack the squad. So you've got to manage with what you have. So even if we bring a new manager in, for me, we're going to be in a scrap whoever's in charge. So that's where I'm sort of like bearing in mind when I'm looking at the league and we're 16th. Yes, we've played a lot of good games, and we've got a lot of bad games now coming up because we've played a lot of good games. But we are 16th with a squad that isn't the 16th best. So that has to be mentioned. I shouted out on mine the other day, but didn't know your name, so just said Leeds Lens. Thank you very much, Danny. I really appreciate that. My name's actually Scott. I don't know if a few people probably do know that. But I don't tend to mention it too much because fundamentally I don't want the brand to all be about me. I want this community to be about all you guys and getting involved, which is why we do a lot of live streams on this channel, because I just don't want it to be my opinion thrusted down your throats, which I admit it probably is half the time. But that's why I try to get a lot of your guys' comments in, and it's why I made a video before the Forest game talking about the fact that we should sack Daniel Farke and what the reasons for that. Even though I didn't believe it, because I want it to be a community. I wanted to sort of have something to as well within the community and sort of be representative of the community and what they feel like. So even though I don't want him sacked, I can understand it. Ollie on Tour says, we're not getting 4 points, no chance. Best chance we have is a win versus Villa and a draw versus Chelsea, Liverpool, which I can't see. Yeah, I agree with that, Ollie. I agree with that. My prediction is he's gone after a thumping at City, Corberan or Rose to be in by Chelsea, Liverpool. Do we think it's going to be Rose, or do we think that that's just like because we haven't seen any shortlist properly yet. We've seen, obviously, like you said, Ollie, about the odds that have been, obviously, in Marco Rose, I think at one point was 11-8. I'm not quite sure what it is at this moment in time. But we haven't seen any full links yet and full lists yet. So I'd be interested to see who's on it. I really would. But I wouldn't be surprised if Corberan's on it. The only thing with Corberan is that he's not having a good time in Valencia at this moment in time. I think he was second bottom. I know they've just played, but he was second bottom in the division. So if he's second bottom, do you really want to take the second bottom Valencia manager in and bring him into Leeds at this moment in time? I don't know if I do, if I'm being totally honest. Because if he's going to take him down, well, that's exactly what we're throwing up for Daniel Farke in it. We have good players to stay up if they are used correctly, says Michael. You see, this is the difference of opinion. Danny's saying that we haven't got good players, and obviously Michael thinks we have. I'm not sure on that, I must admit. BMG, nice to see you back in the chat, mate. I haven't seen you in, I think, a few days. I think you've been in a comment section. I did read your long comment a few days ago, but I haven't seen you in the live chat. BMG says, anyway, it's tough to be objective. We were fine before Spurs and okay-ish before Brighton. The worry is three poor games in 4, but they were all away. We'll maybe have a better idea after 3 more games. Yeah, that's what I feel. I think it'd be really interesting to see, actually, what we're like against one of the big boys at home. I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to see. We haven't really seen that so far. We've seen Newcastle at home, which I actually thought, if I'm being honest, we probably should have been more ambitious in, especially looking now at what's happened with Newcastle, where they've been beat away at West Ham and beaten away at Brighton at Brentford at the weekend, should I say. I think we should have been more ambitious at trying to win that game, because they also had a really poor attack that day. They had Walter Marder wasn't quite there yet. Did Harvey Barnes even play? I think he came off the bench. Alanga played off the bench. They started Osula up front. It was a nightmare at Newcastle situation. We obviously drew the game 0-0. So I think we should have been more. I think we probably should have gone for it more in that game, looking back, because Newcastle haven't won an away game in 7 months. So that was probably a missed opportunity. But what I am going back to is I'm really interested to see, because I think we've competed. I know we've competed against Spurs, but I don't know. I don't fully class them as one of the top teams. Like, I don't put them in the same bracket as Chelsea, maybe, in Liverpool. I think they're a tier above. So I'm going to be really interested to see what happens when we play one of them teams at home, just to see how we get on. Are we going to get smashed like we did? Do you remember when Liverpool beat us 6-1, I think, last time they came to Elland Road, back at the end? I think that was Grassy, maybe near his last game. So I'm just going to be interested to see, because I think we've been pretty decent at home. So I'm going to see if that. See if we can be there with, again, against some of the topper teams, I guess. Will Grant says, yes, but we'll definitely go down with Farke. I think that's in relation to what I was saying earlier. Fair enough. I think a lot of people do think we'll go down with Farke. I think, as I said, that is the common opinion. I think I'm just more with probably the 49ers reason, in terms of, let's give him these games. We're probably going to lose them, whoever's in charge anyway, and let's just give it a go and see what happens. And if he does perform well, let's keep him in charge, and that's fair enough. Or if he performs poorly, then let's move him and bring a new manager in for good games. I think it makes sense. I actually quite like this, what they've done, to be honest. I don't mind it at all. And I've been quite critical of the 49ers for a number of weeks now. Cheers, Scott. I've been saying the squad's not good enough. Yeah, I agree, Danny. I do agree. Jaguar Skills says, Scott, this is a results-based business. The manager takes the fall. I wouldn't worry. Farke will walk away with 4 million plus payoff. Yeah, I'm not worried about that, mate. I think Simon Jordan said it the other day, everyone gets really worried about, oh, you can't talk about a manager losing his job. He's essentially getting paid to sit at home and do nothing. I'm sure a lot of people would take that. Like, if you got sacked at work, you don't get a huge payoff. I've been sacked before and I didn't get a huge payoff. I know you can do at certain times in certain jobs, but none of us are getting £4 million payoff unless we've got a millionaire in the chat, which we might do. But yeah, so I do agree with that. I won't massively feel too sorry for Farke. He's tried his best and it hasn't worked, and that's how it is. He moves on, he gets a new job, and he gets 4 million off Leeds United. It seems all right to me. BMG says, I'm very much on the fence. I've not been Farke out up till now. The last 4 games, though, we've looked poor. More importantly, Farke looked defeated in the post-match interview for the first time. I agree with this, BMG, actually. I do agree with that. I thought he came out before the Forest game with real heart and real hunger, and looked like he wanted to do the job, and he looked like he was sort of ready to almost be in the fight. And after Forest, it almost felt like the Luke Ayling Forest interview, where he didn't quite look like that at all, and he looked almost a bit timid, I thought. I do agree with that. And I also agree with you that the last 4 games have been poor, because obviously people won't throw the West Ham game in there. I actually didn't think we played well against West Ham, and it was something I was making my lunch today, and I was thinking about this last 4 games, and obviously we've lost last 3. We've lost 3 of the last 4 anyway. But my worry is actually that we didn't, even the game we won, we actually didn't play that well in at all. As I said, I thought West Ham gave us 2 goals personally. I know we scored them, but they did give us them with terrible defensive errors, and then we basically just sat in. We had a goal given offside against us, or for us, that was Paqueta was off by about an inch. If that's onside, they might have gone on and won the game. Genuinely, I don't think that was a convincing performance. In fact, as I said earlier in the stream, I think that was the worst performance of the 5 home games that we've had so far. If I'm being totally honest, I thought we were better in the Spurs game, but we actually lost. So I do agree with you. Do we want to play Red Bull football over again? What happened to the last time we played it? Yeah, I don't want Rose. We talked about it a few days ago, about sort of managers that have been linked, or sort of like on the odds sheet, or potentials that I think would come, and the 49ers might look at. And we did talk about Marco Rose. I don't want to go anywhere near Marco Rose. I even heard the Square Ball selling propaganda today that they were joking about the idea, oh yeah, let's go back to Red Bull football, because that worked really well last time. And I am with them. I don't want Red Bull football anywhere near this football club again. I just don't. The thing is with Red Bull football as well is, and I know not all Red Bull coaches play like this, but this narrow style, I just don't enjoy. I just don't enjoy this narrow football. A lot of what I like on wingers is 1v1s with wingers taking on fullbacks out wide. Like, one of my favourite players in this team at this moment in time is Noah Okafor, because he gets the ball and he's just direct and he'll run straight at a fullback. And that's what I like to see in my wingers. And I want to see wingers hug the touchline and come inside and invert. That's what I want to see. I want to see them darting runs inside and have a shot. I hate this really narrow style. I just don't enjoy watching it. So I completely agree. I think I don't want to go anywhere near Red Bull football. I worry that might be the case, but I don't want to go near it, if I'm being honest. Don't want Corberan, no real experience. Yeah, he's not. He has got experience now, mate, because Valencia are a massive club, one of the giants in Spain. So he has got experience, but it's not going that well for him. He had a good first year, and it's sort of started to tail off. So let's see if he can recover from that. Michael says, Scott, Leeds United have played one of the big boys at home in Tottenham. We ran them close. We did. As I said, though, I don't. Like I said at the time, though, Michael, I don't think that Tottenham are in. like I look at Chelsea and Liverpool and just think they're the tier above. Like they're, for me, I know Liverpool are at a horrendous run at this moment in time. They'll be in the top 4, Liverpool, and I think that Chelsea will be in the top 4 again. I think Spurs are more sort of a team that's probably going to finish about 6th, 7th, in my personal opinion. Like, you look at them at home, they're absolutely pitiful at home. They drew to Wolves at home, for goodness sake. So, you know, that says everything you need to know. And I watched them against Chelsea at home, and they were absolutely horrendous. So, I know they've been good away, by the way. I think the top of the league, actually, for away form. But I don't know, I don't really put them in the same category. Like, I think Villa potentially as good a side as Spurs, if I'm being totally honest. And Villa actually beat them when they played them. Ollie says, I'm not saying I want Corberan, but I think he's 100% on the list. He'll be close with Underwood and imagine their ties in the under-21s, etc. I agree with that. That's a really good point. I completely agree. I think Corberan will be on the list. I also think as well, we've still got probably in this club where you look at it and go, Bielsa was the last time that that we had... Well, we obviously had real success under Daniel Farke, but last time that the club was at a really good point. And obviously, Corberan's still got them links to Bielsa, which I think naturally will be there and thereabouts in the club in the hierarchy, my personal opinion. So yeah, I think Corberan they might do. The only thing on with Corberan is that I think there's this feeling that Corberan plays similar football to Bielsa. He really doesn't. Like, it isn't true. Bielsa was obviously quite stubborn in his ways, and we played really aggressive, high intensity football. We used the wings a lot, creating overloads on the outside. You guys know how Bielsa played. We watched him for a number of years. But Corberan isn't like that as much. He would be happy sitting in a low block, soaking it up, going into a 5-4-1. He's an adaptable manager. That's the way he likes to play. Which, as I said, is the sort of manager I want, by the way. So Corberan does fit the bill of what I want. And he did outstanding at Huddersfield Town, and he didn't do much worse at West Brom either. But he managed to get a Huddersfield Town team that got relegated a few years later because the squad was that bad, and he got them he was that close to getting them up to the Premier League. They finished 3rd in the division, I believe, and they lost to Forest in the playoff final in a game that, let's be honest, for Huddersfield, if you watched the game, should have had 2 clear penalties in that game, and maybe would have been promoted to the Premier League. So he has got pedigree as Corberan for sure. The other big factor against Farke is we've lost to 2 relegation rivals. If somehow got 2 draws in them, we'd still have a bit of a cushion. Yeah, that is a problem. But we've also beaten relegation rivals. Like, we've also beaten West Ham at home. We've beaten Wolves away. So I do agree with you, but we've also won a few of them. As I said, the main thing with Leeds United at this moment in time is we've lost all that against teams that we could pick up points away from home in. We've honestly just lost them all, really. We've won at Wolves, and we've lost every other game away from home, and we've shipped a lot of goals. We've got the worst goal difference in the league away from home. So that means that really, if we're going to stay in this division, it's going to be on our own form now. Like, even whoever the new manager is, the good games where Leeds United can pick up points away from home in, and we've already played. We've already played Wolves, we've already played Burnley, we've already played Forest, we've already played Fulham as well, all away from home. They're 4 of your bottom 6. We've already played them all away from home. They've all got to come to Elland Road, which is where, as I said, where Leeds United can pick up points in. But we're not going to stay up from winning away games now. It's going to be on the home form. It's going to be on, when Fulham come to Leeds United, can we beat them? When Wolves come to Leeds United, can we beat them? When Burnley come, can we beat them? That's how Leeds United are going to stay in this division. If they win them games, we'll be fine. If we lose them games, we'll be down. And it will be that simple, in my opinion. Because I don't see them teams beating a lot of the top teams, and vice versa. I don't see Leeds beating a lot of the top teams either. Corberan plays like Bielsa, just saying. He not from what the Corberan I've seen, mate. I know I think he tried when he first joined Huddersfield, and it didn't really work, and he started adapting. I don't expect him to come to Leeds United and start playing like Bielsa at all, especially with maybe in the Championship with the squad we had last year, not in the Premier League with the squad we have at this moment in time. Michael Brown says, Scott, in Bielsa's first season in the Premier League, Leeds United remained unbeaten at home against the so-called big boys. Yeah, they did. I think they drew quite a few of them, didn't they? They drew 0-0 quite a few times, actually. 0-0 at home to Chelsea, 0-0 at home to Man United. I think there might be another 0 in there. Definitely 1-0 with Liverpool as well, because that was the not the Spygate game, the Super League game. Do you remember when we put them thing in the dressing room and Klopp had a nightmare beforehand talking about it all? Sorry, I'm behind on the chat again. Corberan plays nothing like Bielsa does. Yeah, I agree. Can Edwards help Wolves get out of relegation, says Richie? He can do. I don't think he will do, though. I think Wolves are dead. I think they're gone. I think the thing with Wolves is, because obviously they were in a similar position last year, and I think they had 3 points in the first... They didn't win any of the first 10 last year, and obviously we've played 11 now. But the squad's just nowhere near as good this time. Like, Strand Larsen's a decent number 9, but he's getting no service. They've got no Cunha, they've got no Aït-Nouri, who are both providing for Strand Larsen. So I think they're doomed. If they don't go down, Wolves, and we finish below Wolves, we're definitely down, because there's just not going to be other teams that are going to finish below that. So for me, it's like Burnley for me. If you finish below Burnley, you're relegated, in my opinion. And I think it's the same with Wolves. I think they're both down. I think we're at a point, to be honest with you, where, and I hope there's no Burnley fans listening to this, because last time I said this about Burnley, I got attacked for weeks. But I think we're at the point, to be honest, where Wolves are going to go, Burnley in the go, and then it's going to be, can Leeds United drag somebody else into this? Can we drag a Fulham into this? There's upset with Marco Silva. It's not quite working there. They've lost 5 of the last 6 games. It is looking a bit ropey, that. And I also don't think they've got the squad to bail themselves out. Can you drag a West Ham into it as well? I don't think Forest will get dragged into it either, though, personally. Brick on the Coast says, Brendan Rodgers would be my choice if Farke goes. I've seen a lot of people liking Brendan Rodgers. He's not the one for me, mate, personally. He's not the one. I don't like what he did in his last season at Leicester. I think that was a bad sign. Much better squad than we have, and it didn't really work that well for him. And personally, with Brendan Rodgers, I think he likes to play a certain style. I don't think he sets up a defence that well. So I think we need an adaptable coach who can adapt game by game, and I just don't think Brendan Rodgers is that for me. Let's have a look. Rathor has said, odds on the 49ers decide to reinvest and poach a course in the top 5 league for a manager. Yeah, I think they could do that. I think they could go get a manager. I know a lot of people quite like the hipster's choice at this moment in time is the lad at Rayo Vallecano. Can't remember his name. Is it like Perez, his name? Igo Perez? I think he's a name that people like the idea of. I don't think that'll happen. The other one that's in a job at this moment in time that people have liked for years is obviously Knutson at Bodo Glimt. And I've watched his teams in Europe, and they are fantastic to watch. I remember watching him in the Europa League against Man United a few seasons ago, and they were absolutely brilliant. And the thing with Knutson is, which is quite interesting, is I'm pretty sure his contract expires in December this year. So he hasn't renewed yet. So that might be an opportunity if you do want to go get Knutson. But Knutson, he plays in the Norwegian league. Do you really want to bring a manager out of the Norwegian league? I know he's done well in Europe, but do you want to bring a manager out of the Norwegian league and bring him to the Premier League? I don't know. Potentially. BMG says, we need to get quite a few draws away and maybe a couple of wins from some of the worst teams, but you're right, we've played some of the easy ones. Yeah, that's the problem, BMG. I don't know which ones we've got left. Like, we've got West Ham away left. We've got Everton away left. We've got Brentford away left. I don't look at Brentford or Everton and think they're particularly great games. Maybe we can nick draws in them, but I don't think they're going to be games that you're going to target for a win. Everton have been pretty good since they've gone to the new stadium. Brentford, we know, have been fantastic at home for years. I'm not looking at them as really good opportunities for points. Maybe we can nick points. But your big games away from home, the likes of Wolves and Burnley's, and even Fulham's and teams like that, we have actually already lost to. So, except Wolves, of course, which we beat. So that does worry me. Not my choice, but that's what they go for, is that Rose, potentially. Jack says, Corberan all the way for me, but you know how much I admire him, Scott. Think he's someone who can keep us up short term and build with long term. Yeah, I know you like Corberan, Jack. I think you've mentioned him for a few times now. So, yeah, I think Corberan could be interesting. I really do. I think he could be an interesting choice. And as I said, I like the way he can adapt styles. I think that's a really, really good trait to have, and exactly the sort of manager we should be going for. So I wouldn't hate Corberan, but I wonder if they'll look at his time in La Liga and think that that's a problem. I wonder, because that's the first time he's gone from into a top 5 league, and it's not working at this moment in time for him. BMG says, another thing to consider is that Forest and West Ham both look doomed until they change manager. Now they don't. That makes me wonder if Farke's race is run. Yeah, it's the same with me, BMG. It's the same with me. I think, by the sounds of it, BMG, me and you were quite similar on the manager at this moment in time. I'm not saying we shouldn't sack him. I just don't think I'm not sure it'll change it too much. And the other thing is I don't almost think he's done enough wrong yet, and I still think he deserves a bit more time. But I think we sound like we're in a similar position with that, because I've seen them improve massively as well. I agree with that. Although what I would say is West Ham took a while to improve. And Forest obviously brought in a manager early in the season in Ange. It didn't work at all. So they've moved twice, obviously. Nuno went, and then they brought in, obviously, Ange, and that didn't went. And then they've gone to Dyche. And the other thing as well, of course, leading all this over, is that for me they've got better, especially Nottingham Forest. They've got a much better squad than we have, a much better squad. But they're going to have, aren't they? Nottingham Forest finished in Europe last season, and then they put £200 million in. We finished top of the Championship and spent £100 million. So there's going to be a difference in quality, of course there is. We're going to have to hope that one of these teams underperforms this year. Not someone's my choice when Jesse got sacked. Yeah, I think he was a lot. I think he's been on the list for a while. I know a lot of people wanted him when we went down. Danny says Bodo in the Swiss League to Premier League is totally different football. Yeah, it is. The only benefit, Danny, is that obviously he's performed in Europe, so he's done quite well for a lot of teams in Europe. Or he's done well for Bodo Glimt in Europe. Like they actually drew with Spurs this year. In Europe, so I think that is the case. The other thing to mention though with Bodo Glimt is I think they play on an AstroTurf pitch. Like it's a really weird pitch that they play in Norway. I'm pretty sure it's Astro pitch, and I think a lot of teams struggle going to Bodo Glimt because of that different surface. And I wonder if we're not going to have that advantage at Leeds because we're playing on grass as well. And I wonder if that's part of the reason they're doing so well. I'm not saying that's the only reason, because when I watched them in the Europa League, as I said, against Man United, and they were, to be honest, outplayed Man United, it was at Old Trafford. So, I think there's something in it. Do you think there's more chance of us getting Corberan or Rose? I'd probably say Marco Rose, mate. I'd probably say Marco Rose. Yeah, I think Rose has obviously got the Red Bull connection, which we know about, and Red Bull do own 10% of us. He was also linked with the Rangers job. Rangers did want him up there. I think he turned it down, which obviously is 49ers ownership led as well up there. So I think a lot of things point towards Marco Rose. I really do, which is what kind of worries me because I don't really want him. So I think, I think there's more chance of Rose for that reason. BMG says, maybe Sunderland away, especially if we play them during AFCON. Yeah, that could be an interesting one. Yeah, that could be an interesting one. That's one away game I mentioned. And I think we play him maybe just before AFCON, though. Maybe just before. Rador says, Farke is a nice guy. I'd rather he do the decent thing and step down than get sacked. He'll never step down, though, mate, because if he steps down, he'll get any money. Whereas if he walks away, he gets £4 million. So, you know what I mean? It's obvious what he'd do. We'd all do the same thing. Jack says, and this is about Corberan, it's not working at the moment for him, but last season he took over Valencia from the bottom three to top half in half a season. Yeah, he did do a fantastic job when he first went in as well. He did a really, really good job. And as you said, Jack, the interesting thing about that is all we need him to do, really, Corberan, if he was to come in, to be honest, is to keep us up this season. And then we could actually move him on if it came to it, if he wasn't doing that well. And obviously, like you said, he took them out the bottom three. As I said, though, looking back at that as well, Valencia don't have as bad a squad for that league than we have for this league, I think, as well. If Farke starts losing the home fans, he's doomed. Yeah, he is. Let's have a look at BMG because he's coming back to my comment about it as being similar. I think we're similar. He's not done enough wrong yet. My worry is that the trend is very much down at the moment. Beat Villa, maybe that bad run is just a blip. Losing it's a collapse. I completely agree. I think I've said a few times on this show that for me, I'd give him Villa, Man City, and Chelsea, and then if he goes, then I'd get a caretaker in for Liverpool, and then go again at Brentford. I actually thinking about it, I think if we were to lose to Villa, I think I'll probably end up going Farke out. I think I will. I'm not saying that I will, but I wouldn't be surprised if I am. It'll depend on the performance a bit as well, I think, but I can just see us losing to Villa at home and me thinking, yeah, I've had enough now. I'm not saying that'll happen, but I know a lot of people want me to go Farke out. You might just get what you're wishing for. We are talking too much about things because I've got other things to talk about as well this evening. Yeah, but Jesse did well in Europe. Yeah, he did. Rose is just like going back to Jesse Paul. A lot of people talk about Jesse Marsh. Yeah, I know. I don't want to go near it for that reason. And it's not even like Marco Rose is probably a different character to Jesse Marsh, because I think part of things that we didn't like about Jesse Marsh is like he got called a car salesman all the time, and he was this sort of like outgoing but sort of talking nonsense sort of guy. He used to come out and say just total tosh all the time, and it just used to wind me up. And I don't think Marco Rose will be that sort of character, so that is something probably that's a bit harsh to give at him. But it's still the same sort of football. Michael says, wasn't the aim recruitment strategy to recruit for big physical players, 6'2" and over, especially in defence and midfield, and was to cope with the strength of the opposition in the Premier League? Not working. Yeah, you're right. You are right. That's the one thing that Farke's done, in my opinion, of all the things he's done wrong this season. Probably the worst thing he's done wrong is we've recruited for one style and he's gone and played the complete other style. Like, it's just, We've basically, as I said, recruited, as you said, 6'2" big lads, and we're playing it on deck. Like, what are we doing? That is mental to me. Dave says new manager needs to be good at polishing. I can't say that bit, but polishing, and needs to take some responsibility instead of making excuses like Farke. Yeah, they are gonna, because they're gonna have to. Truthfully, if the new manager comes in to the football club, they're gonna have to get the best out of a squad and keep a squad up who are not good enough probably to stay up. That's probably the truth of it, in my opinion. Like, this squad's not bad. It's not the worst squad ever. It's not like the Norwich team that Farke had. It's not hideous. But for me, it's probably the worst, one of the worst 3 squads. So he's going to have to overperform the squad, which is totally plausible. Like, you don't get a Premier League table and the team who wins the league has the best team, second best team, like in terms of actual quality of player, second best team finishes second. So it's totally plausible that we can get out of this. And we've actually been good at home, as I said, and we've got a lot of good home games to play. So we can do it. SAFC says, you won't get note at our place. Cheers, mate. Thanks for the positivity. Hopefully we do, mate. But I think you're probably right. Olean Tor says, I can see Knutson's going to Celtic in January with his contract at Bordeaux expiring. Yeah, he's been linked to the Celtic job quite heavily. They also want a guy from America, from Colorado Rapids or something, I think. So, you know. Results are, of course, vital, but if we perform well in these games, it might give Farke more time. A lot depends on how the players are with him, which we'll probably never know. Polishing George III. Yeah, that's a better way of saying it, BMG. That's a better way of saying it. And yeah, you are right. The only thing is, as we talked about at the start of the show, Mike Keegan's basically said that he needs a point per game from Forest onwards. So now he probably needs definitely 4 points, if not 5 points, from these next 4 games. And obviously Mike Keegan, as we know, has got massive sources to the club. So I'd expect that's probably true. Anyway, so we'll not talk about Ampadu, but I do want to give a bit of a shout out to our boy Patrick. We'll talk about Ampadu tomorrow. That'll be in tomorrow's show. But we want to talk about Patrick Bamford. Not for very long, but I thought we'd mention it on today's show, which is that, and we can get back to manager maybe in a second, which is that according to Mike McGrath, obviously, of, who does he work for? The Telegraph, innit, Mike McGrath. He's basically been saying today that looks like Patrick Bamford has finally got a new opportunity in the Championship, and it is, of course, at Sheffield United. They are struggling for number 9s at this moment. They're struggling for goals. So why are they signing Patrick Bamford? I would never know. The guy never scores. No, I'm joking. But yeah, they've signed Patrick Bamford, and I think this is nice for him. I think part of the reason that club terminated the deal in the summer was because of obviously what Patrick had done for the club, and they didn't want to just keep him around for ages and ages and ages. So we agreed a sort of severance package, so he could obviously leave the football club and get another opportunity. And it's nice because I think Sheffield United might suit him well. I think he'll do okay there. And I think they've got a lot of players, Sheffield United, like him and stuff, that I think you can link in with the play. So I thought I'd just mention it because he's one of the best strikers. Madness to say, but he's probably one of the best strikers we've had over the last decade. So it's nice for him to get a nice little move at Sheffield United. Anyway, should we go back to the manager? Let's go back to the manager. Money talks. Many American owners will stay up, just perhaps by dubious methods. BMG says, if we beat Villa and perform well and lose the next 3, that might just save him. I don't know, you know. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think after Villa, he might be gone. I do think that. I think, like, if I was an owner, potentially, I think you look at it and you go, loses to Villa, and then you either keep him in charge for Man City, or you bring a caretaker in, and then you've got them 2 home games, where I think if you've got a new manager for them 2 home games, of Chelsea at home and Liverpool at home, new manager, bouncing Elland Road, 2 teams that can be a bit flaky on the road as well, in Chelsea and Liverpool. Obviously, as I said, Liverpool lost the last 4. You might look at it and go, you never know. If we go 1-0 up against Liverpool at home, we could win that game. And it sounds ridiculous. It might sound truly crazy to people, but I honestly think with their form at this moment in time, as I said, Liverpool have lost the last 4, so it can't be that ridiculous for me to suggest that we could beat them. We've had a good home form. We've only lost 1 game at home. We've played well. We've got a fantastic atmosphere, the best in the country. If we get up in that game, the atmosphere will fly up and we could turn them over. I mean, Jesse Marsh beat Chelsea 3-0, for goodness sake, with Thomas Tuchel in charge. So let's not pretend that we can't get results at home. Of course we can get results at home. And I think, as I said, if you give him Villa, you don't win that game, and then you sack him after Villa, and you bring in a caretaker for Man City and just see what happens down at Man City and just give hell to the storm. And then you've got them 2 home games. It could be interesting. I think I will be, regardless of what people think, if we go into them 2 home games with a new manager, people are going to be optimistic. There's going to be a bouncing atmosphere. If we get up in games, we can sort of go from there. And the other thing to mention is with this as well is it won't damage the manager too bad. It won't damage him too bad because it's only 2 games. Like if you bring him in for Villa and he loses Villa, Man City, Chelsea and Liverpool, that's quite damning for a new manager. Whereas if you bring him before Chelsea and he's got Chelsea and then Liverpool, you look at it and you go, all right, Chelsea and Liverpool, 2 hard games. It's only 2. And then we can move on to the rest of the fixtures. But let's be massively up for them 2 games and see if we can pick up some really good points. So I think there's something in that. I really do. I wonder if Wilder still thinks Bamford's a muppet. Yeah, I know, mate. Hopefully, probably not by the sounds of it. I think he's realised that he's working with some right old tosh up there. So, yeah. I can't believe they sacked him in the summer, by the way. What a crap decision that was. Michael Brown says, it wasn't until the crowd turned on Russell Martin at Glasgow Rangers. Did the 49ers turn on Russell Martin at Glasgow Rangers? Sorry, I've got incoming. Did the 49ers act to relieve him of his duties? The 49ers didn't act straight away and they gave Martin time to turn things around. Yeah, I think they did, Michael. We talked about this a bit yesterday. I think it was obvious, actually, that he wasn't going to get sacked after Forest because of what Prague prides himself on. And we know Prague was involved in this decision up at 49ers that Andrew Kavanagh said at the 49ers that obviously Prague was involved in that decision. And it took ages to sack him up there. So I honestly do believe that that they were never going to sack him after Forest. I know a lot of people thought they would. I think when you look logically, I know, as I said, I know people want him sacked, and this is a different conversation. I'm not talking about if he wants to be sacked. I'm on about if the 49ers were ever going to do the decision. I don't think they were actually ever going to sack him after Forest. I think that becomes more obvious now, to be honest. He was leading the Wilder is a chant in the summer. Yeah, he was. That is a good thing to mention, actually. I forgot about that. All water under the bridge, eh? All water under the bridge. Malcolm says, just let him go now. Is that presumably on Farke? Yeah, potentially. Arthur says, be all born out, Perry, Stack, Longstaff, no good. Yeah, look, Bornau's getting a lot of hate on this channel. I've seen it over the last few days. Can we give Bornau a rest? He's never played. He's played 1 game against Sheffield Wednesday, which was a freak game. Let's give him a bit of time, people. Come on, he's never even played. I think, yeah, he's not been brilliant. I was actually more worried in the West Ham game. I thought in the West Ham game, especially in that first half, he was jumping into midfield far too much and creating all sorts of bother for the defence, which Pascal doesn't actually do. Pascal doesn't engage as much, which is one of his issues. And I think when the reverse side, Biel engages too much. So yeah, Bornau has never played. Perry, yeah, Perry worries me. Perry does worry me. I agree with that. I think he really worries me, actually. In the Arsenal game, I remember thinking when the few of them goals went in, this is a problem, this keeper. He's a real problem. We know he's not the best kicker in the world anyway. It's just, is he good enough at actually saving the ball? And his reaction time in the Arsenal game, especially for that Gyökeres goal, looked pitiful, if I'm being totally honest. I'm a bit worried about him. Stack, I'm a bit worried about too. Longstaff, I think, has had quite a few good games. I think Longstaff is more to do with, in my opinion, what sort of game it is. I think it's a really physical battle, loads of duels. That sort of game, I think Longstaff will be fantastic. Loads of tackling, all that sort of stuff will be fantastic. I actually think when we're playing against Chelsea and Liverpool at home, actually, let's say this, I think Longstaff in the next few games against harder opposition will suit him down to the ground, in my personal opinion. When he can be involved, get stuck in, that sort of game, he'll suit that massively. At Chelsea at home, I bet he's one of our best players, Longstaff, because it's that sort of game that suits him. So I'm not overly worried. I just think we've got to manage when we play, to be honest. Arthur, that's a bit of a dumb comment, says BMG. Nah, it was. I think fair enough. It's only Bornau. I think Bornau has had so much unneeded stick in this fan base. It's like the lad's never put on his shirt, and everyone goes, "What a waste of money Bornau was." It was £5 million. I don't even know with that money. £4 million. Like, come on. You talk about backing new signings. The last played 1 game away at Sheffield Wednesday in a pretty meaningless game. I know people obviously cared about the cup, but I can't say I did, really. Scooby says, it does feel daft to say how don't look good now. But if you don't make lemonade out of these bananas and watermelons and sardines, go then. Yeah, that's a weird analogy, but I guess it sort of makes sense. My predictions are a 3-1 loss to Villa and a 7-0 at City. Don't say 7-0 again. Ollie, do not say 7-0 at City. Because last time we played City away, I did the stupidest thing in the world and thought, do you know what I'll do? I'll sit in the home end. I can't get a ticket away from home. I'll sit in the home end at City. My brother came with me. He was stupid enough as well. And we had to sit there. as 7 goals went past us, we're surrounded by Man City fans telling us how brilliant they were and expecting us to think they're the same. It was horrendous that day. And also as well, that was like one of Bielsa's final games, and it was just quite upsetting. Like, it was just, don't say 7-0. I'd rather it be 8-0, just so I don't have that memory again. That was horrendous. Do you think we're currently speaking to managers? Yeah, I do. I said this actually again a few episodes ago, or a few streams ago. I think we're definitely speaking to new managers. In fact, I think we've been probably speaking to new managers since the start of the season. Like, truthfully, Ollie, we all know Daniel Farke's record in this division. We all know that there's a potential that it could go wrong. We all know that the club were talking to managers in the summer and sounding out the idea of bringing a new manager. The club would have been totally amateur if they decided in the summer, do you know what we're going to do? We're not going to bring in a new manager. We're not going to do that. We're not going to look at a new manager. We're just going to expect Farke's perfect. They would be totally amateur if they hadn't considered sounding out new managers based on what's been going on and based on what we know about Daniel Farke. So they've definitely sounded him out. Yeah, I'm not worried about that, to be honest. Lee Robinson says, we need to sell Aronson, Harrison, Mez, Biol, but Bornow again, not Bornow. I'm gonna start. Should we pick up? Have I got a picture of Bornow? Let's put him up. No, I haven't. James, sell them all. Get a top right winger and a striker and a 10 potentially. I don't think Aronson won't make any money on him, mate. So there's no point. Harrison, we can't sell him for any money because there's no point. Mellier's got 6 months left on his deal, so it'll be nothing. Beal we'd have to sell, would be a weird one because we've only had him for 6 months. So again, we won't earn much money on him, so it's probably not a good idea. BMG says Bornow hasn't played. Yes, exactly. Stop the Bornow hate. That's what I say. No, I'm joking. But no, in fact, no, I'm not. Stop the Bornow hate. It's ridiculous. Beal has played 4. So's Perry. Bad with feet, but no howlers. Stack and Longstaff have dipped, but both had good games. If anyone's been poor, it's Ampadu. Yeah, it is. And we were gonna talk about Ampadu today. And the stream's gone on too long. We've talked too much about Daniel Farke. I actually thought going into today's stream, I tell you what, we might not have enough topics with just Daniel Farke, Ampadu, and a bit about Patrick Bamford. And again, what we've done is we've managed to knock out another 45 minutes talking about the manager situation. I get it's a big topic, but it's impressive to me because there's always new angles somehow. Because you guys always give me new things to think about, and then I've got to respond to them in my own head. So long as Leeds United stay above 1 point a game, I think Farke will be safe for the time being. If the poor form continues, where we drop below that, then Farke's position will be questioned. Yeah, well, that's what Mike Keegan basically said. Farke will wish he sacked himself after Villa tear him a new one. Hopefully that doesn't happen, Dave. Are you a Villa fan, Dave, or are you a Leeds fan? Lee says, remember when Bielsa beat Man City 2-1 with 10 men? Lol, it won't happen under Farke. Do you know a funny story about that game, actually? So obviously that game, for context, if people don't remember, that game was behind closed doors when Leeds beat Man City 2-1 it was the Stuart Dallas game. I was once talking to my barber, and I won't call him out because this is too harsh, but I won't say his name. But I was once talking to my barber, and he told me he went to that game. And I remember sitting in the chair thinking, mate, I don't want to call you out because it was behind closed doors, but it was behind closed doors. Why are you lying? What an idiot. But so yeah, poor. I'm not gonna say his name because that'd be too horrible. But he did tell me that he went to that game, and I felt like I said he made it behind closed doors. It was behind closed doors. But oh well. I said it's a dumb comment because it's not banned. Yeah, you were right on that. I won't read the whole comment out. Scooby says, why sell Aronson? I think what we'd get for him, he'd be better off kept as a squad player. Honestly, how much do you think we'd get? 5-ish, I guess. Well, it's not just that with Aronson. We bought him for so much money that he depreciates on value naturally over the years, but he's basically still worth, like, he's still got a book value. I think we worked out a few days ago, or I was doing it, and he's still got a book value about 10 million quid. So if you sell him for any less than 10 million quid, you're banking a loss, which means you've got less to spend in the transfer window. If you're selling for any more than that, you're not going to get much more than 10 million. So there's just not much point. Michael said, Farke by nature is a cautious manager. You won't panic. He never panics in the Championship when things were going smoothly at times. He believed Leeds would get back to the Premier League, which he was proven correct. Yeah, I actually think one of the defining things that Daniel Farke did, Michael, which I think is really interesting, is Germany came out after that Swansea game, and I was at the Swansea game. It was horrendous. It was brilliant when Nonto scored, and truly horrendous when Melia let that one in right at the end. Who scored? I can't remember who scored it. But Daniel Farke came out after that game, of course, and said, I'm 100% convinced that Leeds United will be promoted this season. At the time, I thought it was an idiot, but looking back, it's the best thing he could have possibly said. I think that team was basically telling, this isn't happening this year, lads. We are going up this year. We're far too good to go up. And he needed someone to go and put the neck on the line and say, we are going up. And that was real leadership. So yeah, that was a fantastic comment. And you are right. And in fact, got that bang on. Jack says, we love you, Steffi Bornow. We do. Bornow love. Bornow love. If Rose comes in, Aronson will be here to stay. Yeah, I think he will, because I think he'll be, obviously he was massive for Daniel, for Jesse Marsh. But he's not good enough for any system, mate. He really isn't. Leeds need to keep Farke, because if you go down, he could get used back up. Plus, if you get a new manager and still go down, that's a manager that leaves you back at square one again. Yeah, that's all good. SAFC. I agree with you in the terms of that. If we go down, you probably want Daniel Farke to get you back up. That's just not plausible, mate. We're not going to go down with Daniel Farke. We're not. Do you know what I mean? When like Norwich were a yo-yo club as such. That's probably a horrible thing to say, and I hope we don't have that Norwich fan in today. Is it Nigel? But Leeds United are not a yo-yo club, so we're never going to go down with a manager. So it's just like. It just never happened. I think some are the same. I know it's going well for you at some at this moment in time. I know it's going well for you. And obviously, you've got every right to go do whatever you want to do. But Regis Labrie had been sacked if you were going to be going down. He would have been. That would have happened because you're not a yo-yo club. We're too big clubs to be yo-yo clubs. Leeds United should sell Joffrey while he's in a rich form for Hull City in the January window, as his valuation might have increased. He's contracted Leeds until 2028 and should also sell Joseph. Yeah, I think the Joffrey one could be interesting in January. I think it really could. I think there's something in that. Jats has agreed, Michael. Also, Joseph and Joffrey would help with PSR. I'd move Perron too. Yeah, I'd move Perron as well. Harrison, Perot, Gruev, Aronson and Melier would be gone in January. A dream world. I know, mate. I'd be... you can drive... You drive 2 of them, mate. I'll drive 3 of them. How's that for a deal? I'll go up to Melier, up to Celtic, drop Melier off. Then we'll go to... Who's taking Aronson? We'll give him at Sheffield United. I'll drive to Sheffield, drop him off. Gruev can go to... We'll take him back to Germany. He can go to some German club. That'll be fine. I can do that travel. It's no problem. We'll just jump over. We'll just drive through. BMG says, the other way to look at it, Joffrey and Joseph, is they might have a decent attack if we go down. Yeah, potentially. But you would obviously we need to prioritise staying up, don't we, BMG, I guess. But I know what you mean. Lee says, if Farke gets sacked, how much will we lose on PSR, you reckon? About £4 million, mate. Yeah, about £4 million. He's got 18 months left on his contract. I think someone said yesterday, if this was true, which I think it was, that he's on about 6 million. No, I think he's on about 4 million a year, so maybe a bit more than 4 million. But it's a bit. It's not going to be enough to the point where it's probably a new signing. It might stop you getting a loan player in January though. It really might do. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up the show there because we've done another 52 minutes talking about Daniel Farke. So what I will say is, if you want to talk about Daniel Farke tomorrow and if he's going to be sacked or not and what the 49ers should do, then come around at 8 p.m. tomorrow and we'll go all again. I'm actually sure we could. I reckon we could go for another hour right now, probably, talking about it. But yeah, if you do want that, we'll be live tomorrow at 8 p.m. again. And we probably will discuss Daniel Farke in some quantity. I think there's always new ways to look at this, isn't there? Yeah, I'll see you all later, everybody. And I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, and also as well, if you got to this point and you're still watching, if you could drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hype the channel, that's apparently a thing as well, so if you could do that, that would be fantastic. And also, I should be saying this more, but if you've got to this point in the show and you've just joined maybe the last 10 minutes and you're enjoying it, just go back and scroll back to the start and you can watch about 40 minutes more of it if you'd like. Yeah, you're more than welcome to do that as well if you want. Grow is not handy, he's awful and should be offloaded in the summer. If Farke's still here in January, then he will sell Okafor before he sells his favourites, potentially. Anyway, thanks all for watching, as always, and I'll see you tomorrow.